would recognize the member from Wetaskiwin, Camrose.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to reply to the speech from the throne and to speak about my constituency of Wetaskiwin, Camrose. I actually have to divert for two things right now. Thanks to the Edmonton Meadowlark speaker, he's brought up something I want to mention, and also Spruce Grove, St. Albert. My wife, unfortunately, is not in the gallery today, so I want to publicly and online apologize to her, not for miscommunication. I'm speaking today and not later, so it was not that I communicated incorrectly. And it's really important that in a relationship, a marriage relationship between husband and wife, there's good communication. So I have to clear that with her right away. And it's important in a good relationship that you have communication in a marriage longer than possibly both of these colleagues have existed. So, again, not to re-emphasize too long, but communication is important. The other thing is, when I go to schools, much like the Edmonton Meadowlark colleague, I will give my spiel and I'll talk about all of these issues, all of these things that go on, and the very first question will be, how old are you? So we have the very young and the very enthusiastic and energetic, and they've actually revived my interest in politics. I had been retired for 4 years, and coming back today, I'm excited that I'm going to be serving for 8 years or more. And it comes from their enthusiasm, and I'm really proud of that. So I would like to compliment all of the previous speakers for their eloquence and passion. I am proud of the commitment and dedication they have shown to social justice and humanitarianism, and I'm honored to be part of their team and join together with them in this House. The constituency of Wetaskiwin, Camrose includes 2 progressive cities, but is also the home of the town of Millet and the village of Bittern Lake, which, if you haven't been there, is a cozy little village that is nearby a wildlife preserve and has many walking trails. Bittern Lake is known for its beauty. Our constituency also includes the hamlet of Gwyn, which has its own ski hill, and someday you might want to come and ski there. We are also privileged to encompass 2 of the 4 Cree nations of Sampson and Montana at Muskwachees. Now, Wetaskiwin, Camrose has 2 county councils and part of 4 school districts: Wetaskiwin Regional, Battle River, Elk Island Catholic, and St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic. Mr. Speaker, I may be a little biased, but I think Wetaskiwin, Camrose is one of the best and most diverse places in our entire province. We are a dynamic community, and it would take me days to list all of the fantastic features of our constituency. And so here are just a few of those highlights. We have the University of Alberta, Augustana campus in Camrose, offering a fine liberal arts program under the guidance of Dean Alan Berger. Recently, we have a very modern, up-to-date Peter and Jean Lougheed Performing Arts Centre. Likewise, the Camrose City Centre has the Bailey Theatre, which is a beautiful heritage building, and one of the festivals that they held just in February is called the Nordic Film Festival. And it was actually started by the previous MLA and his wife, and I compliment them on that. It features a number of international films, but also some Canadian ones from Alberta as well. Hans Olsen, the son of the previous MLA, produced a movie that was shown at this film festival. It's called The Figurine and was filmed in Edmonton. And you just don't get to see that on commercial television or commercial theaters, but you may want to watch that sometime. The dramatic pride of Wetaskiwin is the Manlack Performing Arts Centre, located in another historical building, the Waterworks Building. A fairly famous Camrose event is the Big Valley Jamboree of country and western music under the present direction of Tom Gerling, his board, and a tremendous number of volunteers. I'd venture to guess that at least some of you have been to the Jamboree, and if you haven't, you're welcome to come this year because we're going to feature Blake Shelton, Carrie Underwood, and Autumn Hill. Jaywalkers Jamboree is a June extravaganza of food, fashions, and fun that you may also want to attend. Mr. Speaker, as many of you are from rural constituencies will know, our communities can be as close as family. with everyone having at least one connection to another. For example, one of Camro's councillors, Kevin Heicha, is a former student of mine. Another, Max Lindstrand, is a former baseball teammate. Wetaskiwin's mayor, Bill Elliott, another retired teacher. Actually, Bill and I coached volleyball, but often on the other sides of the court. Also on council in Wetaskiwin is Wayne Nielsen, like me, a retired school principal, and Wayne and I shared basketball coaching duties for a few seasons. It is these connections that are the lifeblood of rural communities, and these connections run deep throughout my constituency. Mr. Speaker, my home of Wetaskiwin, which means, appropriately, Hills of Peace. There are countless things to keep you very busy. If you're a history buff like myself, you can go any time of the year to see the Reynolds Alberta Museum. In fact, some 10,000 plus people do so yearly. In her honours speech last week, she mentioned that our government is taking steps to diversify and grow our economy. Despite the current economic downturn, tourism is one of the fastest growing sectors in our economy, and the amount of visitors we see through the Reynolds Museum perfectly highlights the potential of this industry in our province. Reynolds Alberta Museum has something for everyone. If you appreciate, and I know many of you do, or would like to explore our rural heritage and historical artifacts, you can explore some amazing farm machinery and buildings. If you are a car enthusiast, like our colleague from Calgary Currie, some of the restored vehicles are incredible, and you can see restoration happening in their shops. As a side note, just outside of Wetaskiwin is the Edmonton International Speedway. Edmonton's too small, they had to bring it to Wetaskiwin. For those that like fast cars and racing, Reynolds is also the home of the Canadian Aviation Hall of Fame, where you can get up close, sit in some of the airplanes, and touch those exhibits. Wetaskiwin also has an air show. Due to very generous donations by the Reynolds family, the artifacts are now while they're beyond the space, and there's a space crunch to display more, and so they are looking at further expansion. As many of you know, in my previous life to being elected in this House, I was a teacher. I was delighted to hear in the speech from the throne last week our government's commitment to protecting and strengthening our public services such as healthcare and education. Education plays a major role in our constituency, with Wetaskiwin Camrose, as I said, having Augustana University, part of the U of A, but also the Norquest College. And I know many of my former students have gone on to continue their studies in these institutions and are continuing to make contributions to their community. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to briefly mention one of our local businesses, that is Parkland Fertilizer. In the period of prolonged economic decline, our government is committed to doing everything that we reasonably can and as quickly as possible to promote job creation and economic diversification. Businesses like Parkland Fertilizer are a perfect example of the potential that local businesses can bring to the diversification of our economy. Parkland is also currently building new expanded facilities in Wetaskiwin's Southeast Industrial Park. And since we know that small and medium businesses can help drive job creation in this current economic climate, I am hopeful for the future. One of their buildings, I'm also proud to share, has 350 solar panels on its south side. And by their numbers, they tell me that the life expectancy of those panels is 30 years. They expect the cost to be recovered in 10 years, and that means 20 years of free electricity and cost saving. Not to mention the contributions to the environment and the goals of the Climate Leadership Plan. Mr. Speaker, Millet is one of Alberta's prettiest towns, as evidenced by the fact that they have won the Cities in Bloom Championships many years. I'd like to congratulate recently elected new mayor of Millet, Tony Wadsworth. Tony attended the speech from the throne, and with his English background, really appreciated the significance of the ceremony and traditions in this House. I am sure, like many other municipal leaders in our province, Tony appreciated our government's commitment in her honours speech to investing $34 billion to help build roads, schools, transit, and other facilities in our communities that need and will help support the economy and local jobs. To the south of Wetaskiwin are the four Cree nations of Sampson, Montana, Ermineskin, and Louis Bull. While all citizens of Alberta are welcome to Musquechees, which means Bear Hills, you will find a very rich cultural heritage by attending either or both powwows in July and August. And I would like to thank the MLAs, my colleagues that have been there this last summer. You would not believe how amazed they were that MLAs would actually come to Musquechees. And when we had so many there, they really, truly appreciated that. While the growing population amongst First Nation is important to see how Musquechees Cultural College is helping provide post-secondary opportunities. And I want to compliment their president, Patricia Littlechild Goodfellow, because today's her birthday. And Patricia, if you're watching, happy birthday. I was incredibly proud to hear in the speech from the throne last week of the government's commitment to respect the request of most of Alberta's Indigenous governments and not only repeal Bill 22, but to also start consultations on new Indigenous Peoples Sacred Ceremonial Objects Repatriation Act, which will facilitate the return of sacred objects to the nations which they rightfully belong. I look forward to these discussions, and I know my constituents do as well. In addition to the three chiefs, Kurt Buffalo, Darrell Strongman, and Randy Ermineskin, I would like to pay tribute to the late Rusty Three Fingers, Chief of Louis Bull. Musquechees also has the Chief Craig Mackinac as the Provincial Alberta First Nations Grand Chief. Craig and Councillors Marvin Yellowbird and Kirk Buffalo were also former students of mine. Something must have gone right to get so many of those students into social studies, into politics. And Councillor Vernon Saddleback is one of my former cross-country runners. Chief Randy Ermineskin and I we shared the coaching bench of the Junior B Hawks Hockey Club. Speaking of Hawks, I would also like to inform everyone that Musquechees has Hawk Radio, 89.1 FM, and promotes all things First Nations, music, singers, drummers, and events. Sometime, please have a listen. And Mr. Speaker, actually I wanted to mention some of the other radio stations that we have in Wetaskiwin. Wetaskiwin has two, and Camrose has one, CFCW. Mr. Speaker, the speech from the throne last week contained numerous initiatives that my constituents are excited for. Our investment in frontline services, workers, and infrastructure is greatly welcome. Everyone is quite aware of the stresses of the present economic situation, which 1 year ago, during the election campaign, was rarely a topic of discussion. They're reassured, however, that our government has a plan to put Albertans back to work and will diversify and focus on diversifying our economy. My constituents are excited about the reinstatement of the STEP program and the introduction of the Promoting Job Creation and Diversification Act, and the $340 million investment in new direct help to Alberta's families who need help, including the enhancement to the Alberta Child Benefit and Family Employment Tax Credit. I am proud to have supported last fall the Enhancement Protection for Farm and Ranchers Act, the Workers Act. My office has had numerous inquiries about how people could participate on the technical rules, and I was informed today by the Agriculture Minister that there have been hundreds of applications, and I'm very impressed with that, because I think this not only shows that people of Alberta are ready for safety and ready for compensation to include all workers, and they are excited to get on with forming the best of the best policies unique to Alberta's farms. Mr. Speaker, I would like to end today by thanking all my constituents who place their faith in me as their MLA. It has been an amazing experience, and especially thanks to all my team of volunteers and supporters. We will go into history as one of Alberta's best reformative provincial governments: gender balance, gender rights, reforming Alberta healthcare, human rights, environmental stewardship, the sunshine lists, building schools, and moving forward with badly needed infrastructure, and rectifying many treaty wrongs for our First Nations. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.